Hello, my name is Daniel Urban. I am a biologist at the Carl R. Woese Institute for Genomic Biology at the University of Illinois. And we are making this video series to inform people about COVID and the vaccines and to try to answer a lot of the common questions that are out there. My background, I have a PhD in evolutionary developmental biology. I have studied the embryonic development of a range of organisms, everything from humans to bats, the organisms that we commonly think of when we think of COVID or coronavirus. My rationale for wanting to do this, my concerns with the vaccine weren't so much about the safety risk, because I study this and track this quite frequently, but more about the risk to the general population and making sure the rest of the public has this information and that they understand it fully. My rationale for getting the vaccine is not only protect myself, but my family and the rest of the community out there. And I hope this helps with other people as well. So one of those first questions that people typically have about the vaccine is, can it give me COVID? And the answer is no, it most definitely cannot. None of the vaccines that are either currently authorized or even still in development contain a live virus. Rather, the only thing that the vaccines do is they code for these little red spikes proteins on the outside of the virus. And what it's doing is just helping your immune system to recognize those spikes, because that's how it would bind to one of your own cells. So it's recognizing that and building antibodies to it ahead of time without the rest of the virus present. That way, in case your body came in contact with the virus, it would already recognize those proteins and be trained to attack it. Is the vaccine safe? I know there was a lot of concerns very early on because people had never heard of mRNA vaccines. It wasn't something that was out there before, and there's concern about whether or not this was something that was rushed into production. Do we actually know enough about it? Yes, we actually do. These type of vaccines have been studied for well over 20 years. The reason why we've never used them before is because we've never had to. We've studied them and we've developed them just in case of an emergency situation, exactly like the pandemic that we are facing right now. And that is what they've finally been deployed for, and they are working remarkably well. Continuing on with that, I know a lot of people are concerned about not wanting to be first in there. Good news in that no one getting the vaccination at this point in time is basically going to experience anything that hasn't been seen before. There have been well over 250 million doses administered just in the United States alone. About 38% of the entire US population is fully vaccinated. In Champaign County, here locally where we are, we're at close to 46%. We've been a little bit ahead of the national curve the whole time. Good news about this is anything that would have cropped up with these vaccinations, we have likely seen by now. Continuing on with that, what are the potential side effects? Because I know that's what a lot of people hear about and worry about. The good news is that the majority of the recipients actually experience no side effects other than potentially a little bit of soreness at the site of injection. And this is something that's common to any vaccination. Common minor side effects, aside from that, may include headaches or mild fevers that would last no more than 2 days. Once again, even that is the minority of the people out there. Why do we hear so much about side effects? I like to refer to, the common axiom, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? You hear the loudest, uh, you hear the loudest comments from the people who had the most problems with it. What you don't typically hear are loud comments coming from people that had no side effects, like myself. I didn't go out there and shout it from the rooftops. I just quietly said to myself, oh, well, that was nice. And that's actually a common reaction. So we hear about the people who have more adverse side effects, but that doesn't mean that they're actually as common as we think they are. Early on, there were several noted cases of anaphylactic shock related to some of the vaccines. This isn't because the vaccines were specifically causing them, more so that it was triggering people that had already had a predisposition to some allergic reaction related to that. It's an incredibly rare thing, happens to only about 2 people per million doses. And if it's going to occur, it happens very quickly. This is why they have you wait 15 minutes after you get the vaccine just to ensure you're not one of those very, very few people within the population that will have one of these reactions. And if you are, you're still there at the site and they can treat you immediately. Another question regarding safety cropped up about blood clots regarding the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Once again, I would point out this is an incredibly rare scenario. 15 cases out of the first 8 million doses of that vaccine. That's all that has occurred with it. So put that in perspective of other numbers, that's about 1 in over every 500,000 people that receive this. Just background numbers in the United States, 1 in every 500 people is going to just naturally occur blood clots every year in the United States. It's actually a fairly common phenomenon among specifically older populations. Younger people are less prone to it unless they're on some type of medication. It's surprisingly to most people a side effect in a number of medications, including very common things that most people wouldn't even consider, such as oral contraceptives that can make you more susceptible to things like blood clots. More importantly, though, that I would like to point out is that if you actually contract COVID and become sick and hospitalized with it, 1 in every 5 of those individuals develops a blood clot. So you are far more likely to develop this condition from COVID itself than from a vaccine. Another important statistic to show along with that is the severity of this illness. This is currently the 3rd leading cause of death in the United States. We're talking about a virus that went from being completely unknown to the human population to rapidly jumping to the 3rd leading cause of death in the US. Compare that with the relatively very low and very rare side effects of any of these vaccines that have been rigorously tested for safety. That's something that you should definitely consider when pondering whether or not you want to get the vaccine. It's a better choice than getting COVID. If you have questions further about the COVID virus or about vaccines in general, I encourage you to reach out to the IGB. We have a number of means of getting in contact with us. Thank you for your time.